Today, I'm going to be speaking about what to consider when going to collect your puppy. Now, once you're set on the puppy that you want to get, you want to arrange for a date, preferably when you have a lot of time, to go and collect your dog. So, once you've arranged for a date for you to go and collect your puppy, you want to get ready beforehand and you want to have some of the essentials at home. For example, your crate if you're going to be crating them, food bowls, their food, a collar, a lead, a dog bed if you want to have one. Ideally, in the crate, if you are going to be creating them, I wouldn't recommend a dog bed for the crate just because they could have an accident and it's a lot easier and better for you to be cleaning up an empty crate rather than having some form of bed in there. So you want to have all of that ready and prepared for when you go and collect the dog. Once the day arrives that you're going to collect your puppy, when you get there, you want to spend a bit of time with the puppy beforehand just to ease them into you because essentially you are a stranger. They're not used to you that much. You might have visited them once or twice beforehand, but you want to make it feel as comfortable as possible. And then that gives you time to, well, gives them time, I guess, to have a poo and a wee if they need one. One very important thing that you definitely want to be asking on the day is for the relevant documentation. Now, that's vaccine card and your microchip card if your puppy's coming with those two things. So for us, those things we definitely asked for because we knew Apollo was coming with those things. And it gave us a bit of an idea of obviously what vaccinations he had beforehand. Another thing you might want to ask for is potentially a blanket that's been around mum and dad, just so your puppy can have a familiar scent when they're on the way home. And even when they do get to their new home, it'll make them feel a lot more comfortable and more at ease. So for us, Apollo actually, when we took him home, he was wrapped around in the blanket, and when he was in the crate, he was also in the blanket, or with the blanket, I should say. Having a blanket can also make them feel a bit more comfortable in unfamiliar environment, such as the one that you're going to be taking them. Before you leave, you also want to ask what type of food, and ideally, and this is what I would recommend, is taking some of the food that the breeder has with them home for the dog to be eating that same food on the same day and even maybe a couple of days worth of food. But ideally, if you have planned beforehand, potentially order that food that they're already on. This is just because if they're already used to a certain type of food and you'll be moving them to a different type of food, it could make them get an upset stomach, cause some form of diarrhea or some form of issue, and it's not pleasant for you or for the dog. But if you do want to move them over to a different type of food, what I would recommend is still get an order in for the kibble or the type of food that the puppy was on whilst he was with the breeder. Once you have decided that you want to move them on to a different type of food, you would ideally slowly switch them over. So you would start, I guess, 3/4 of his old food and then a quarter of his new food for a week, let's say, or for a couple of days, and then move them to half and half. And then you switch it around, so 3/4 of the new and 1/4 of the old, until they basically get to the full new food. And that's how I would do it if you wish to do that. And we've done that with Apollo a couple of times now, just to move him over from certain types of food. So once you've asked for all of the relevant things and you have your things prepared at home, once you've asked for all your relevant questions, all the documentation, you have all your essentials at home waiting for you, now it's time for you to actually take your puppy home. And if you're driving, which hopefully maybe you are, and if you're not, then that's fine. Obviously, you'll be on the train. But if you're driving, I would recommend to potentially take someone with you. So your partner or a friend or family friend, just so they can help you out whilst you're driving or they're driving. Once you're in the car and you're traveling, beforehand, if you are alone, I would recommend some form of crate just so that the puppy is secure. For us, I was driving and she was carrying Apollo on her lap. I know it's not probably the safest, but at the time we didn't really know better and he was fine. So yeah, I would recommend some form of safe place, and the most safest is a crate, some form of crate. One bit of knowledge I guess I could share with you guys is when you are going to collect your puppy and the time that you are spending with them at the breeder's house, you want to maybe make sure that they've done a toilet break, some form of wee, some form of poo, just because for us, what happened was we was in the car and Apollo had a bit of an accident and he gave us all the warnings and we knew the only thing is we couldn't stop where we were. So we had a bit of an accident. He had a number two. So I would strongly suggest beforehand making sure he's done his poo, his wee before jumping in the car, because also puppies, do need toilet a lot more regular than when they are adult dogs. So just keep that in mind. And if you do have a long journey, make sure you build in stops in your journey. So we done a stop midway, so where he could stretch his legs, have a wee, and he did have a wee, not a poo because he already done that one, but you want to be prepared for that circumstance. And on top of that, you want to maybe take some poo bags just in case, some wipes just in case. Luckily, we had all of that in the car just in case. So just be prepared. It's always better to over prepare than under prepare, especially in those situations where you're caught red-handed and you don't really know what to do. So now once you've got all your essentials at home, you've got all your documentation, you've now got your puppy at your house, you now want to, I guess, relax a little bit. Let the puppy be a puppy, let him explore a little bit around the house. There will be accidents, so don't worry about that. That's completely normal, especially it depends on the type of environment that the puppy was brought up. If they were outside a lot, then, it makes sense. Um, so don't get too frustrated, especially at the beginning. Like I've mentioned in my other video about at the beginning, training them, potty training them, that's all completely fine. And it's obviously up to you, however you want to potty train them. Just keep in mind that if you do want to start from the beginning, it will be very tiring because you will have to be basically outside every 2 hours on the dot and every time they go after food. So with things like training and stuff like that, just don't worry about it too much. They are still a puppy. They've got plenty of time to learn. But yeah, once you're at home, you want to make them feel as comfortable as possible. If you do have a crate, and like us, we crate trained Apollo from when he was a puppy, I would recommend getting a one size. So estimating for when he is an adult dog, and obviously there are dimensions and measurements recommended for when your puppy will be an adult. So we bought a full size crate for him for when he's an adult. And when he was a puppy, we put a divider in. And as he grew up, we obviously moved the divider further and further back. Our divider was very makeshift. It was a piece of plastic from a container that we had, and it fit across nicely. So he was fine. He was contained in a certain area. One of the last things I leave with you guys is that once you've brought your puppy home, your puppy doesn't know that this is their new home. Your puppy doesn't know that this is home for them. They don't know how to behave at home. So I would recommend to keep an eye on them at all times. You don't know what they're going to be chewing. You don't know what they're going to be doing. So you don't know where they're going to be weeing or pooing. So just keep that in mind that now you have another being at home. You want to make sure that you keep an eye on them just in case to keep them out of trouble, especially, since they're puppies and anything can happen. But once they're an adult, they'll be fine. They'll know the rules. They'll know the drill. So you'll be fine. So yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. It's a bit more of a shorter one today. But in the future, I do want to make some videos on training, our lifestyle, what we get up to on a regular basis, and maybe teach you guys some of the obedience that we've done and Apollo's learned. And I want to teach him some new things. So I think it'd be good for me to document that and show you guys how I go about doing those things. So yeah, but let me know if you guys also want me to make videos on other certain topics, things that I've mentioned that you want me to go in a bit more depth. So yeah, bye.